My guest today is Joseph Nucci, although you may know him from his social media handle at Joe Nucci, where he shares his ideas about therapy speak and the colloquial use of trauma. My friend George shared one of Joe's posts recently on his stories on Instagram, and it hit me between the eyes because I just thought, this is the account that I've been looking for. In an age where we've never been more literate about mental health, it feels as though these words are being used to label and not really much more. And as someone who has clawed their way back from the depths of depression, I don't feel this is helpful. And I would like to see this change, which is why seeing Joe's account made me so happy and why I shared it immediately. And it was only when quite a few followers said, surely he's a podcast guest, thanks in particular to Yasmin, that I reached out and I'm delighted to say he said yes. Joe is a practicing psychotherapist who opened Denver Minds in Colorado and now lives and works in New York. He was born in California and raised in Monterey and earned a master's in clinical counseling from Northwestern University. The post of Joe's that I saw began, "This is going to piss off a lot of people, but I have to say it. I am so over the cult of trauma." And that feels like an excellent place to start. Welcome to the Emma Gunn Show, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a real pleasure. So, talk to me about these posts that you put up because I think they are brilliant. They are so well thought out, but I've alluded to it. Many of them start with, "You're not going to like this, but."
Yeah, well, my kind of social media content creation journey, I I became more serious about it almost by accident. I made my first short form video post in on April 17th, I think it was. And at the time, I was only being followed by friends and family. It was my 10th or 15th post. I made a post about, about cognitive therapy, basically. I said, you don't have to believe everything you think. And I talked about that truism in psychotherapy. And it's fallen off the algorithm now, but I think it rounded off like just under 1 million views. It got 130,000 in the first 24 hours. And it was, I mean, the first time I'd experienced anything like that. And for a really long time, I was trying to figure out, I love being a therapist. I love private practice. And it was like, what else? Is I almost went to law school. I thought about getting my PhD. I thought about getting involved in kind of like the tech venture capital side of mental health. And I started the videos really to advertise for the practice. That's how a lot of service businesses advertise for themselves now. And so, but when things started getting viewed a lot, I started taking it a little bit more seriously. And when I started taking it a little bit more seriously, I started to read, about the science of virality, and started to just kind of think like, okay, well, what do we know what works? And you may remember, if you followed any of like the U.S. politics stuff, that in the 2016 election, for example, a little moral outrage goes viral quicker. And that's not good or bad, it just is, in my opinion. And so I thought to myself, is there anything about this field that genuinely irks me, and can I talk about it on camera? And it's not to be contrarian, like just for likes, for the sake of getting high impressions, right? It's actually, well, there's anything that actually matters to me. And the topic that you brought up, the misuse and sometimes abuse of certain psychological terms, therapy speak, also irks me a little bit. And so when I made that video, I mean, I knew it would get engagement. I didn't think it would be like, I think it's like at 5.5 million views on Instagram alone. And when I posted it, I think I only had like, excuse me, I think I only had like what, like 30,000 followers at the time. So it's kind of an outlier in terms of certain viral posts. And I guess I share all of that to say that, the framing is a bit intentional and there's an authentic piece to it as well. And I think the reason I wanted to speak on it was because when I started making content like I did, I started consuming mental health content more. And it may sound funny, but as a therapist, I wasn't really doing that before. Like I was just getting my information from other places. And I don't fault content creators for, oversimplifying things or not adding a ton of nuance, because I get it. It's really hard in 90 seconds to, make something very nuanced. But some of the things I was seeing were just wrong. And it was from licensed professionals. And it really started to hit me when I was socializing with friends, New York City, a lot of my friends are very professional, they're very highly educated. They were starting to use the terms like some of the popular accounts that I see. And when I'm talking to my friends, I'm not in therapist mode, I'm not in content creator mode, I'm not, looking to kind of correct people there and then. It's kind of like, I'm sure lawyers notice when people are not like maybe misuse grammar or something. There's a time and place, but I think that social media in some ways is the public square. And so I made that post because I think the word trauma is misunderstood and misused. And in a way, it's a good problem to have, right? Because I think that it's a good thing that more people, are talking about trauma and have some idea what it is and are a little bit more aware of it. But that doesn't mean that just because that's a good thing doesn't mean we can't talk about the downsides and the problems that I think are emerging.